Have you ever read a story so disgusting and abhorrent that you wondered if the author was trying to warn you about something? I used to be fairly uncaring of those kinds of details. I watched plenty of horror-related media, not thinking beyond the confines of my immersion. Within 48 hours, I got to learn something I wish I was more cognizant of sooner. Last year, I started streaming. One of the many topics I would find myself going back to is the topic of horror, more specifically, creepypastas. I had read some on stream, let some narrations play in the background, as well as generally talk about them with chat. After a few streams, I had gotten a friend request on Discord from a very bizarre account, All the Fun Worms 91.
Hello, love your stuff. I too like creepypasta. I wrote a story a long time ago. It's pretty bad. Would you mind reading it on stream? I want to see how you feel. Ask me any questions.
This user then sends me a link to a 10-year-old Reddit post on r/nosleep. The only problem is that not only was the story not even there, but also the user was deleted. Not thinking much of it at the time, I fired up TF2, played a few games, and closed out for the night. Throughout my time on the internet, I'd come across many strange people. Most of them hailed from the furry fandom, but another decent chunk of that comes from the creepypasta community. One thing that made me feel not right about the fandom was how occasionally I would run into a type of person that got a different kind of enjoyment from creepypastas. Those people made me somewhat uncomfortable, but I didn't think much of it until I got older and also seen these stories become real. I remember all the insane Jeff the Killer fangirls, Slender stans, and Eyeless Jack worshippers. It was cringe, but occasionally it would get a little too intimate, like the author was trying to write a personal fantasy of theirs rather than an actual story. But at the end of the day, you could reasonably write this off as some playful LARPing. Until it wasn't.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm gonna rot and die?
1-1. What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lincoln. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend at the dead end just south of Rivera. He came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you still there? Yes.
Hi, sir. So, are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yeah, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
Stabbed multiple times?
Yeah.
On May 31st, 2014, a 12-year-old girl was nearly stabbed to death by her two best friends. This case was gruesome, particularly in the way the girls had planned to lure their friend deep into the woods. More specifically, it was Morgan Gazer's plan. She had a distinguished history of delinquent activity that seemed to hint at some kind of violent or aggressive urge. She would chase other kids down halls, bring weapons to school, and was even caught playing with blood at one point. One detail of which makes this case unique is Morgan's interest in creepypastas. She had been a fan of creepypastas for a few years, finding particular interest in Slenderman and his proxies, or hitmen, if you will. Morgan confessed that the reason for stabbing her friend was to appease Slenderman and become one of his proxies. Most people at the time assumed that she actually believed in Slenderman, that she simply got too deep into a disturbing urban legend. However, when learning about what led up to the incident in question, her intentions become more obvious. She wanted an excuse to hurt people. She pled innocent but was ultimately sentenced to 40 years in prison. Her accomplice pled guilty, getting herself 25 years with a chance of probation in 10. This wouldn't be the only time something like this happened. In 2017, 14-year-old Donovan Nicholas stabbed his mother-in-law to death, cutting the edges of his mouth into a smile, blaming his alter ego, Jeff the Killer. In 2018, a 12-year-old girl would stab her brother to death. Her reasoning? Laughing Jack had told her to do it. I'm not trying to insinuate that creepypastas are dangerous, but there have been cases where these stories were used as cover to commit real crimes, hurt real people, and this has been the case for well over a decade. I woke up the next day and opened my phone, instinctively checking Discord to see what my friends were up to. While some played Fortnite, TF2, and Minecraft, the DM from All the Fun Worms 91 stared back at me, all the way at the top of my notifications. It felt off. The blank profile picture, weird username, bad English, ask me any questions. I was lucky the link wasn't some kind of Trojan virus, which tells me that there was some hint of seriousness to his request. Why? I have no idea. Maybe he knew a smaller creator would be more willing to hear his request. In hindsight, it was the perfect bait. Since this post was in January 2015, I wanted to see if maybe an archive existed in the Wayback Machine. I plugged the link and lo and behold, I found the post, untouched, hot off the presses. A little too oddly convenient, I know, but at the time it really didn't matter. It was right for the picking, and who was I to pass up an opportunity to read a creepypasta of dubious quality? The story was titled Red, Green, Yellow, Red, written by CoolFrog12. As far as I can see, the user was a throwaway account. As for a synopsis, on the surface, it's a story from the third-person perspective. It follows a killer of sorts who wears a mask and stalks children, more specifically his students. It is as follows, and please brace yourself. It's not graphic, but you'll see. Red, green, yellow, red. Red, green, yellow, red. There were approximately 8 stoplights to and from his work. Red, green, yellow, red. Red, green, yellow, red. 4 of his students were his favorite. They were attentive, listened, and learned. Their favorite colors were red, green, yellow, red. Red, green, yellow, red. They all lived within 8 blocks, played the same games as him, and loved the same stories as him, although the thrills they derived were very different. Red, green, yellow, red. Red, green, yellow, red. They couldn't appreciate the 9 things he's done for them. Allowed them to goof off in class, give them good grades they didn't earn. They didn't know how much he appreciated them. Red, green, yellow, red. Red, green, yellow, red. One of them saw him in their room. She wanted to scream. It was all over her face. But she froze. Despite the mask and tight black skin suit, she could tell it was him. Because of his eyes. Her room was red. 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 She was broken into many pieces. No fault of his own. She shouldn't have looked. All she had to do was not look. Her parents pulled into the driveway, but not before he made his escape. She needed to be buried somewhere green, 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 green. 3 weeks passed, no hint of a knock on his door nor any prying eyes into his domain. The cops had nothing to go by, nothing to tie him to the scene. The only thing any witnesses said they saw was a lanky dark figure. He wore a mask. The mask was yellow, 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 yellow. Their hunt was on, but his had already begun. He couldn't savor the flavor, he wanted more. All the fun worms took what was left of her. He couldn't blame them, she was too perfect. 1 down, 3 to go. All he could see now was red, 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 red. Needless to say, my nerves were rattled. In a vacuum, you could maybe write this off as some kind of super pretentious, needlessly edgy creepypasta. But that one line, all the fun worms took what was left of her. It was like I had unintentionally clicked 2 puzzle pieces together. A puzzle that was starting to paint a very disturbing picture. I should have stopped there, I know, but I couldn't lie to myself. My curiosity burned like wax, slowly dripping into a pool of questions and speculations. I needed to know why, so I took the plunge. Hey, your story isn't showing up at all. It says it got deleted. Why? Immediately, he responded.
Use Wayback.
Okay, sure, but why did it get deleted?
I don't regret what I wrote. They tried to make me feel sorry for what I did, but it was all in good fun. They just don't get it.
I could feel my chest tighten with anxiety. My skin shaped into the goose flesh. It was like I was slowly inching my hand into the open jaws of a hungry beast, enticing me to inch closer. What do you mean?
I didn't intend to write it. It just sort of happened. Whatever was in my mind just appeared on the screen. I didn't even remember making the post until recently. I think someone should narrate it.
What made you remember?
A girl.
What's her name?
Kay.
What happened to her?
Can't say. I heard she got moved recently. That's what made me remember.
Why me of all people?
I think it would be funny.
To who? It's just a creepypasta.
To me and my friends. Maybe even you if you gave it a chance.
What if I don't want to? And that's it. He just stopped responding, went dark, eventually deleted his account. Obviously, I wish I knew more, but I think with what I got, I had enough to help figure out what the hell was going on. Typically, when people make usernames, they put the last 2 digits of their birth date at the end, so assuming this guy was born in 1991, that would possibly make him 33. It doesn't bode well that the Reddit account was a throwaway, but I had a hunch. That username was created with intent. It was meant to lead me somewhere. The story was published in 2015 when he was possibly 24. Highly speculative, I know. A quick Google search shows typically the earliest you can work as a teacher is around 20 years old. If I'm assuming he's self-inserting himself into the story, that gives us about 4 years or so between 2015 and 2011 when these alleged crimes were committed. Again, at this point, highly speculative. I was running on a gut feeling. And I was right. Found an article written in 2020, published by the Denver Post. Bodies of 4 missing girls in 2012 finally discovered near St. Elmo's School. My breath skipped a beat. I rolled back in my chair, the plastic creaked from the pressure, and my wheels began to move away from the screen as I pushed against the wall with my legs. What the fuck was I getting into? I looked back down from the ceiling, my eyes landing on the page in front of me. I couldn't ignore it. I was looking right into the reality of the situation. With no other option, I read on, got to find out why this story was written. To cut some of the filler, here are some of the highlights. Deep into the forest behind an old abandoned school, hikers found 4 bodies of 4 girls. Their bones were scattered about the area, likely due to animals picking away at the bodies for years. What gave it away was the human skulls that were found intact, lodged into a tree. Dental records quickly identified the 4 as Mary, 13, Marlene, 12, Candace, 14, and Caitlin, 14. They were all friends, and they all disappeared in 2012, blocked off one by one. The first girl was Caitlin. While the other girls' rooms were spotless, hers was a mess. The scene was covered in blood. Spatter analysis indicated it was a bludgeoning. It seemed like the killer freaked out and thought hitting her on the head would potentially knock her out, but her skull fractured instead. She didn't die on impact. The killer may have seen that there was no other option, so she was further beaten with an unknown object, killing her right then and there. A blood trail could be followed outside her window, leading into a street where the killer's getaway vehicle was likely parked. Her parents soon discovered the scene and the police were called to investigate. Witnesses stated they saw a figure, male, roughly 6'4", lanky, wearing all black. They couldn't see his face as they only saw the backside of him. He drove away in a van with no license plate, took an exit into an empty highway, dumped the vehicle, and made his escape into the woods. The trail eventually ran dry. Over the course of 8 months, the rest of the 3 girls went missing, never to be seen until 2020, where their bodies were discovered. Inside the tree, there was something else found alongside the skulls. A yellow fucking mask. As soon as I found this out, I sent everything to the Denver police, and I've been patiently awaiting months for any update on this case. Words cannot describe what I felt in that moment. If I had to attempt, it was like a form of dread that can only be achieved by being naked in the woods in the dead of night, not knowing what kind of stalking eyes were looking at you at any given moment. I was glad I already owned a gun, to say the least. And as far as I know, all the Funworms 91 didn't know I was onto him. I contacted the DPD again in October of last year, asking for any update on the case. It was growing cold again. At least, it felt like it was. For some reason, there wasn't enough to reopen the case. They sounded reluctant to give any details other than investigation pending. Granted, I know I'm some anonymous tipper from Florida. I doubt they'd tell me if they got a big break or anything, but still, I saw nothing change. I've had this story hang over my head for almost an entire year. Having to pretend like you didn't just come into contact with a potential serial child killer takes its toll, and I'm done paying the price. I decided to reach out as best as I could to other narrators and see if they got any messages from similar accounts. As it turned out, I wasn't the only one who was onto this guy. I'll keep him anonymous, but essentially this person was the reason that all the Funworms 91 Discord account got deleted. He was talking to him right around the same time I was. He pieced together the same pieces I did and confronted the user. This is when the account deleted itself. Me and the unnamed narrator began reaching out to any others in a similar position and found something very interesting. This killer was actively doing this for roughly 4 years now, reaching out to random people associated with creepypastas, big and small, asking them to read his story, having them put the pieces together, and then running away as they found out. We found around 12 other creators who have encountered some variation of all the Funworms 91, from ignored messages to full-on cryptic interactions. The other accounts all had random phrases from the story with 91 at the end. So now the question is, why isn't anybody talking about this? There is no telling when or even if this guy will strike again. And the gall to taunt people with this awful shit makes me think it's probably soon. So this is a call to action. Not just to the creepypasta community, but everyone involved in online horror. There are predators that lurk amongst you, and you don't even know it. They might be big, they might be small, they might even be your favorite narrator. I think it's time I confess everything I said was a lie. Well, almost everything. The Discord accounts, the screenshots, the articles, the whole serial killer thing, it was all made up by me. But believe me, I have a very good reason to. You see, when it comes to online horror, the community tends to be ignorant of certain truths that I feel are important to know. Although risky, I know, I thought the best way to get people's attention within the community was to create a video with an admittedly corny but eye-catching premise. If I make an exaggerative narrative about a serial killer who confessed to a creepypasta, maybe I could get people to pay attention to the real monsters that lurk within the community. Monsters that hold very high influential positions within said community. Monsters that maintain their sparkling image. Monsters that don't deserve that image. Today, I want to bring your attention to Creeps, McPasta, and Mr. Creepypasta, two respected narrators who share a very real, twisted premise between not just each other, but other narrators too. Featuring allegations they have actively dodged addressing to this day, despite the damning evidence that continues to get whispered. It involves lies, obfuscations, attempted destruction of evidence, gaslighting, and the sexting with underage fans. This video is really about online horror's darkest secrets. In the off chance someone is new to the online horror space and isn't aware of who these individuals are, let me give a quick rundown. As a genre of content, creepypasta narrations really started to pop off around the early 2010s. There eventually would be hundreds of thousands of channels centered in and around the sharing of creepypastas, but in the early days, there were only a few. Two of these channels are Creeps McPasta and Mr. Creepypasta. They both started their channels around a similar time, and they quickly became acclimated to one another. Mr. Creepypasta would be seen as the figurehead of the community, and Creeps was his right-hand man. Now, from what the general public knows, these two kept their noses clean, quickly rising to the top of their genre as respected members of the community. However, this sour can of sardines was slowly twisted open in 2020 when Kuro Chan Fox came forward and alleged that Creeps McPasta and her had a brief but highly intimate relationship over the internet in 2012. The problem being that Creeps was 21 and she was only 12. The allegations in the interview are as follows. In 2012, Komori quickly found herself becoming a fan of creepypasta narrations after her sister introduced it to her. She quickly became interested in a British horror narrator going by Creeps McPasta, who only had just started his soon-to-be successful narration career. On a whim, she decided to reach out to him through YouTube's now-defunct messaging system, which resulted in them sparking a friendship. This friendship quickly evolved into a working relationship as Creeps had brought on Komori to not just narrate with him, but also help construct projects such as The Streets. We don't have a full scope of their relationship as they had chatted on many other platforms such as Skype, Chattango, and Facebook, but from what we can see from what Komori testifies, their relationship became sexual from the jump. Creeps would constantly speak to her as if they were partners, calling each other pet names, flirting, getting in Skype calls, playing Minecraft with each other, and unfortunately, the exchanging of nude images of Komori. This image, while never provided for obvious reasons, is real, as it's being referenced by creeps in this screenshot of the Facebook chats. Everything I'm showing now is what was public at the time of the interview. There will be more.
I had sent a picture to Creeps.
Is this Creepypasta, the first one that you started talking to?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Creepypasta. I had sent him a picture of like my genitals, with like a drawing of like cat ears and like whiskers. And I remember on Facebook, like he commented about it, like saying like, you know, I'm never gonna like get rid of that picture, or like I'm never gonna stop looking at that picture. And so eventually,
Can I just, I before we move on, I just want to say that I know you said that was embarrassing, and I'm sure that must be like embarrassing and traumatic to admit, but the fact that a grown man in his 20s was getting a nude picture from an underage girl is in no way ever the individual's fault. Like, that was not your fault, and you shouldn't feel bad about yourself because of it. He knew what he was doing, and he knew that he was manipulating you, and it should have been, you shouldn't have had to go through that situation.
They even made jokes about being the reversed ages. But this interview isn't entirely focused on Creepypasta. It was made very clear in this interview that Mr. Creepypasta did acknowledge Komori in the chats, but never made any advances on her. Another narrator mentioned and was allegedly involved in the exploitation of Komori was Creepypasta Jr. He was another known and well-respected channel, even was at one point friends with Mr. Creepypasta and hung out IRL with him several times. Komori had alleged that Creepypasta Jr. had an in-depth sexual conversation with Komori involving the Guro fetish, basically the sexual arousal to gore and death. He allegedly masturbated in the call with her and spoke about how he fantasized about her getting hit by a car. And to be 100% transparent, this is entirely hearsay. We don't have access to any logs or chats of this occurring. Komori's interactions with Junior were apparently brief after that Skype call. His name will be showing up again later. In the interview, she explained that she preferred the way Creeps had treated her rather than Junior. Junior was more aggressive and forward with his advances, while Creeps was tender and apparently kind. Eventually, Komori's dad found out and put a moratorium on her access to the internet. Most of her devices were seized, but she found a way to keep speaking to him. They had even made promises to wait for each other. Komori's father had immediately got law enforcement involved. However, it being that Creeps lived in the UK, nothing could be done, which is a reality that has to sting. Sex crimes over the internet just aren't taken seriously. Not because it's not serious, but oftentimes we're talking about multi-jurisdictional to multinational laws that conflict with one another and can be insanely hard to prosecute, if not literally impossible. For instance, how would you even begin to figure out where to prosecute the perpetrator if he lives in another country with different laws and definitions for crimes? For this last section, I want Komori to speak for herself. Let her show you what he did to her, what he drove her to, how he made her feel.
So I continued talking to him on Facebook, and eventually they found that out too. And when I had everything taken away from me, I had gone to the bathroom and considered drinking bleach, but I didn't, because I've heard it's not pleasant. I ended up telling my parents anyway that I tried, and the next day I get called to the office and there's police there to interview me, and I eventually get sent to a crisis center. But before I went to the crisis center, I went home to pick up some stuff and immediately go on the computer to talk to Creeps. I couldn't see what was going on, and I thought that, like, he was, like, you know, really, I don't know, he was important to me. So, I don't know, I think after I got out of the crisis center, I wasn't allowed on the computer anymore, until I was, like, 3 months later with supervision but the supervision wasn't very good, and so I would still open tabs to talk to him, and it's just like I would continuously go back to him, you know. When I turned 15, I messaged him again, and it had been like 2 years since we had last talked, and he had gotten an adult girlfriend, and just forgotten about me. He was like, not like nothing happened. He was just like literally talking like nothing happened on Messenger.
How did you feel after that?
I mean, I feel like he was like genuinely the first person that I like actually loved, and I didn't realize, well, okay, now I realize that people who like children, they don't like them for their personalities.
Yes.
They like them because they're children. One important thing that I want to say, like, last, I guess, is kids, people, like, the age that I was, it's so cool to be in an environment with adults, but it's, nearly impossible to actually see if you're being manipulated or not when you're a kid.
Do you think that they have done this to other people? In your personal opinion?
I feel like it's probably unlikely that they haven't. So just the fact that they did that to me and then got away with it, and then they now have so many, like, so much more followers than before and have never got any repercussions for, like, I don't want to, like, okay, I don't want this to sound like it's, I of course am somewhat spiteful, like, of course, because they hurt me, you know, and they messed up a large portion of my childhood, but I just feel like there needs to be some kind of justice, you know, and if there isn't, there's no way that, like, something can be corrected, you know, like, I don't see a way that they haven't gone to other, or at least been probably approached by many other girls that were fangirls just like me and didn't have any reason to be like, hey, like, let's keep boundaries, you know, because why would you? This worked before, you know?
Yeah, and if they did it once with you, then what's to stop them from doing it again if they never got any kind of repercussions for what they did?
Never will there be words any more true than that last bit. If there was nothing stopping them before, what's to stop them now? As it would turn out, there were others. Many others. But before we go over that, it's only fair we analyze the response of Creepypasta as well as the community and what happened after this interview dropped. Knowing what I know now, it's going to be difficult presenting Creeps' response in a way that doesn't come off as well poisoning. Obviously, I'm thoroughly convinced of his guilt due to facts that weren't made clear at this point of the chronology of things. I'm simply just going to describe what led up to the release of his response and give a brief rundown of the most important points in his 40-minute video. If you're interested in hearing his whole side, the link is in the description. One of the many advantages Creeps had in this situation was being on home turf. Many of the people in his audience didn't even know what he was being accused of. Creeps even acknowledged this in the first few seconds of his video. This is because the only people who were following this situation were people who already had a preliminary interest in internet drama. So naturally, this excludes well over half the viewership of online horror. I say this as someone who frequently peruses the community. People here are adverse to drama. They don't tend to follow it that well. Needless to say, when the video response showed up in people's feeds, nearly everyone who saw this only saw it from Creeps' perspective, and even I was no exception. I had no idea how bad the allegations were, and it took TCR's video covering it an entire year later for me to realize this. With that being said, here's his response.
Hey there. So if you're here, you're, I feel, one of three people. Either you know what's going on, and you've been awaiting a response, which, in my mind, like, kudos to you for waiting. I seen far too many people not give this chance straight away, which is saddening to hear because it's just one side right now. Or you're someone else who has no idea what's going on and you're about to get caught up real fast. Or 3, you're one of the people who left indefinitely but, you know, has curiously seen this and came back, which, again, a respectable thing. But for those who don't know, a few days ago there was this like a 40-minute expose about some creepypasta narrators, myself included, about grooming this young girl, and this was like set many years ago. And this is gonna be me basically debunking what was shown and what was said.
The first section of this video is focused around 2 things in particular: grammar and work. In Creeps' own defense, he says that he doesn't type like the messages shown. He finds the idea of Tumblr speak to be cringy and overbearing. According to him, he's never typed like that ever.
Oh no, pet's head in asterisk. I didn't even realize that one was there. Cringe asterisk is no, I've never unironically, no, we're not doing that.
He even at one point says that he tried to find the Facebook messages between him and Komori, but shockingly weren't there. Creeps notes that in the messages, the writer says that they are at work, which according to him is impossible. He only worked 1 IRL job at Blockbuster during college pre-2012. After he graduated, he had a stay-at-home job that he worked alongside YouTube. After going back and forth between these points, he gives one of the main repeated assertions in this video. It's not me, it's an impersonator. He believes that someone in 2012 decided to impersonate himself using his real name to groom Komori. He also says that because of this, he is also a victim.
Because we do have a real victim. That's the sad part about that. We do have a real victim. But then the person impersonating doesn't get caught because, of course, like anyone can assume an identity. But the person who was framed is also, like, in some ways a victim in a different way. And it's such a hard scenario to sort through because it's not an aggressor and prey. It's a mishmash. It becomes, you know, almost a plot line of a story of just conspiratorial, who did it, how do we find them, but someone's to blame because there's a victim. But that's also something I'm feeling now.
Another claim relating to grammar is that his was bad, with many frequent misspellings and punctuation errors. His typing style magically got better after he got a smartphone in 2015, as he relied on autocorrect, I assume. Why these messages couldn't have just been typed out on a computer, a place he was stationed at frequently in 2012 due to his apparent stay-at-home job and YouTube, is frankly beyond me. Later around in the video, he gets around to addressing the PayPal claims. According to Komori, this was given to her to pay for a Pikachu onesie. Creeps, however, can't find the receipt of this transaction history, most likely because past a certain point, PayPal deletes transaction history as they can only store so much data. Around the 20 to 30 minute mark, he talks about impersonators. He shows that there are fake Creepypasta accounts on Instagram. Now this, in a vacuum, is probably the best evidence he could show to suggest he's innocent, and I wouldn't doubt this is what convinced most people. When you stir long enough in the YouTube atmosphere and gain traction in certain online spaces, people will start to impersonate you. I used to be a known artist in certain role-playing aminos when I was a kid, and I even caught people stealing my characters and taking credit for them. It can happen really at any scale. At the 33-minute mark, he claims that he is a very prudish person. Vanilla even. He was never known to be sexually provocative, and that his friends can attest to this and blah 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 blah. Take a shot every time this dude refers to his friends as a source in this video. You'll be dead by the end.
This is me talking about video games, I think, with an old friend. This is interesting that this is a perspective of someone who I've barely spoken to, but my friends, I can literally count on one hand, my exes can attest to, but people that close to me and know me, as you know me in person, looked at him like, are they serious? And my friends looked at the video and go, that's not him.
That's not me. That's not you. Nope.
And finally, arguably the most important section of his response, stuck at the ass end for less than 40% of his viewers to catch, he responds to the most damning evidence against him. His Pokemon Jessica video and the Streets video, the ones that feature Komori. For this, I might as well let him do the talking.
Okay, so there's more screenshots as well. There's the video. Now that's one where we're gonna have to dig into we're gonna have to dig into the past. We're gonna go right back now. This is an era where I sometimes still reminisce with another old narrator from back in the day of just how crazy the old Skype days were. So let's start from the beginning. I've mentioned before there was always one big narrator, and then he had his group of friends, and then other groups formed. The only way I can liken it is just comparing it to high school, where if there's the popular kids, there's the people that go, we hate them. I don't know why, like, I don't know if that still happens now, but looking back, like, that's so toxic. That's so bad. And so many groups formed of like little groups of friends, but there's always one big narrator chat. And so sometimes like people would just chip in like conversation, but then there'll be every day there was drama going on in there. You have to imagine it was a mess. Like, and this was also the Wild West. That's the way to describe it. It was the Wild West of just names. And so you have to imagine, it was never always like the top narrator, then me, and then everyone else. That's what it's been for years since the start. But there was this period where, I was in with a match of hundreds. There was like literally hundreds of new narrators, like everywhere. I was on the same level. You never get to choose who you work with a lot of times. Sometimes like there'll be friends where you're like, oh, can you use? But if someone's fit, this is how you use it. You go in the group chat, you're like, hey, I need those voice. And so I do now his lines. And then you just most people I collaborated with back then, their channel is either gone or I have no idea who they are, or like both. Like this person. Oh god, my knees. This person was apparently in an old video, Pokemon Jessica, which, remember when Pokepastas were like the biggest thing? For a start, like fair enough, that one's sole featuring that person, but that's also one I have no memory of organizing. It was probably in the same vein of, hey, I need a voice, and then someone comes forward. And the biggest tell is this Halloween special, where there's a long list of names, and there's like some people I know. I remember Mr. Creepypasta. I remember Scarecrow.
Oh, he does. He knows Scarecrow. He knows Scarecrow a bit too well, might I add. Oh, and Miss Zombie Doll, Darkmander, so easily forgotten. These names will be very important later, and there is an extraordinarily good reason why Creeps wants to pretend like he didn't know who these people were. Ironically enough, his hand-waving of the people in the description would push one person to do a little digging and, well, for lack of a better term, find the bodies. Also, on a side note, this video is super interesting. I wonder what the rest of the description... Oh, hey, let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
There's Junior in there. Some of the others, I have no idea who they are. I daren't look for the channel. It's probably gone. Or if it is, it's going to be a relic. Who are these people? And yeah, let's try to look again. So yeah, no, really, I know some of the names, but not all of them. Again, that's telling to, this is the first year where nobody was big, and I was just happy to get voices on. But this person's first experience, I want you to know, his first experience when he was found by another narrator is like, there's this Skype group of other people like you. Do you want to come in? Yeah. So we joined in. The first thing they did was, do you want to see MCP Junior's and Creeps' real face? What? And I think he said no, but they sent it anyway in like our real names. Like, we were doxxed so badly, so early. And this is stuff like I didn't know about until later, and it was saddening because I've always tried keeping certain things to myself. One of them is like my personal identity. I used to keep, I used to be faceless. Now I'm not faceless. I've always tried keeping my name to myself, and that was a sad to realize like that was also out there. So that also would explain why it's easy to replicate that side of things too, because people were finding my personal Facebook and personal pages, and it's not hard to recreate. It's not hard to make that again and just go, yeah, this is so-and-so. And it's even more damning because it looks more personal. Like, yeah, you can fake being Creepypasta, but can you fake being the real him? And the answer is, goddamn, yes. Yes, you can. Oh, God. I'm hoping, in the end of the day, to delete this video in a week. I hope that once things settle, that to just remove this video. Like, it was one of my regrets of the break-in the end is when you search for my name, that comes up as the most searched thing because that was the juicy thing to search. That's what people wanted to know about. And I know how much drama sticks with you because now that's part of my identity. I don't want it now. I don't want that on me. I'm hoping, like, I already feel like the core base of this channel now is probably gutted, because now there's a big pool of people that now have to pick sides. That's another saddening part. But all I can do on my behalf is just carry on. You know, I'm probably just going to keep going the best I can. And to wrap things up, the messages aren't me. These actions, they're not me. I condemn, you know, hopefully if there is a way to find them, which the problem is, it looks like with how little the presentation of things were, I hope that whoever is doing it is either caught or just stops doing it, because of, you know, hopefully this video projects that, you know, there's probably don't just stay away from online like creepypastas that just say on text that they're me, because in all likelihood it probably isn't me. And all these actions that are described, not me. It's fervently, I wholeheartedly cannot say this enough, it's not me.
After this video dropped, the mass majority of people in the creepypasta community and online horror seemed convinced of his innocence. However, there were very loud dissenting voices like Slimebeast, who not only got into contact with Komori to show screen recordings of the evidence shown in the interview, but also found some interesting things about Creepypasta's past, more specifically in the way that he typed. Firstly, let's get a better idea of what was being discussed between Komori and Creeps before debunking his claims and proving that it is beyond any reasonable doubt it was him she was talking to. Firstly, in the emails, we could get a glimpse of some messages that aren't shown in the recordings of chats. We see Creeps say stuff like, "Kiss his forehead, love you so much, good night. You're on 91 subs, Realms was stuck at 92 for ages until I finally nudged him. Please talk to me when you can. I'm going to remove you for now, add me back if you ever can." Notice that these are archived messages sent in October of 2012, whereas the messages seen later are from August. Speculation on my end, but I gathered that October was when her parents found out, and that's when Creeps got the hint to start moving on from her. We then cut to the screen recording of messages that were referenced in the initial interview. Some highlights include, "I want to drink your bathwater," multiple messages professing his love for her. "What's up, honey bunny?" He asked, "What would happen if I asked you to go on the computer?" To which she responds, "They'd say no, you need your sleep," implying that he's asking to speak with her late at night. Mori mentions that she had a 1 week long relationship with another girl, to which he responds, "Oh wait, that means you're back on the market. Thanks. Wait, this isn't Skype." The conversation goes on with Creeps talking about writing up the streets video. Don't ask me how this is possible with the fake Creepypasta. We're not there yet. Nah, Pet's head. I find it incredible that Creeps reads this line, but not the one right below. "I still have that picture you sent to me the other day. I'm never closing it." Which of course is in reference to the nude image Komori had sent of herself. The conversations go on. Highly flirtatious. You could pause and read the rest if you like. Anyways, moving on from that, Slimebeast had also discovered some major inconsistencies with Creeps' defense, mainly when it came to the way he conducted himself publicly online. Going back to any post on any of his social media accounts, what's left of them anyways, would reveal he talked exactly like the guy in the messages, to a T, with many extravagant proclamations of love and affection for his fans, as seen here.
"Why won't you love me? I never said I didn't love you. In fact, I posted a status saying I loved everyone, including you. Especially you. Especially you who's listening to this now. I love you." There's a few discrepancies that really stand out for me. It's where I say, to breathe for this one, it's where I say, "I love you." Ooh, I have had an aversion to that word almost my whole life. I love you.
Miss. By number 1. On that note, curiously, despite being vanilla and conservative as he put it, he was quite the opposite, and openly so, making many posts thirsting over anime girls, sexual fan art, basically anything this guy could get his dirty little hands on.
Creeps, come on.
Yeah, we're ending it.
Wait, we're ending it?
I don't know.
We're ending it. No, I want you to say something to your fans.
You want me to say something?
Love you is not sufficient.
Professing my love is not enough. Okay.
No, it is not.
Sorry, I thought love meant something.
No, it's just a word.
Okay, to my fans, I want to make sweet, creepy love babies with you. That is all.
And there you have it.
Line number 2. Something that I hadn't mentioned before was that Creeps had been caught trying to delete evidence of his relationship with Komori on those old videos, specifically Jessica. In the description, he had edited out her name as a credit.
There is a lot of suspicious behavior surrounding the release of it. The main one being the change in the description on the Creepypasta Jessica video. If you look at the response, this is partially acknowledged, at least in the description and in the comments, and brushed off as him trying to get videos to pop up in the metadata again for SEO reasons. However, he only says that he changed the title in February, which is true. That said, he also changed the description the day after the Komori interview, which he does his best to ignore. You see, the description was intentionally changed to take out the credit to Kuro-chan Fox's account. We know this because the Wayback Machine shows the credit there after February 2020 on April 12th. Skipping ahead to the 23rd, the day after the interview, we see that the credit was removed, then later reinstated. I actually asked Creepypasta about what happened there when all of this was blowing up and taking place. He brushed it off by saying, "No idea about that, but out of respect for what's going on, I fixed it right away."
Slimy, snaky, worm. Line number 3, by the way. We have that screen recording referenced earlier of not only some of the messages that were sent, but emails too. Literal PayPal receipts that link directly to Creepypasta. Immediately at the beginning, we see boatloads of automated emails from PayPal and Facebook surrounding the name Jacob Calvert, Creepypasta's real name. And to be extra clear, I need to pause for a second and state that this isn't doxing. His full name has been public for years now. It was made public as late as 2017 when his house got broken into and he started to GoFundMe under his brother's legal name, which is easily ties to Jacob. But this real kill shot is the email, jacobmonkey@hotmail.com. This is his email, and we know this is his email because it's what's linked to the Chattango website that was mentioned in the interview and his official Tumblr account that once existed.
Which sure enough brings up Creepypasta's now deleted and gutted Tumblr account. We know this because the same Tumblr account is credited under several of Creepypasta's YouTube videos.
While it appears you can use a Chattango account without a verified email, it would be nearly impossible for Creeps to not realize he was being impersonated on Chattango. His email was very active at the time, considering he was using it for a multitude of things, such as PayPal, Tumblr, and YouTube. You could argue that he basically never checks his email, but at the very least, he should be able to find the email of an account being registered on Chattango. Get this, mysteriously, he couldn't find it. Line number 4, count him, read him and weep. As for his job, yeah, this is just another dumb lie. There are literal posts he made from around the time he was speaking to Komori about him waking up and going to work and talking with his assistant manager. Maybe he was lying about going to work in 2012? If that was the case, why not prove it? Surely, since he worked at Blockbuster, he would be able to show when he stopped working there. That kind of stuff should have been shown in the video anyways, as it would have actually debunked the claim. The thing he said he was going to do, but didn't.
This is gonna be me basically debunking what was shown and what was said.
You fucking suck!
Entera, número 5. Dios mío, ay, ay, ay. Bitches be lying, man. I'm Hispanic, this isn't racist. And finally, the last nail in the coffin, something that really doesn't require anything but simple deduction. The emails and the messages that link to Creeps' IRL Facebook. The account that contains his full name that wasn't public at the time. Messages that talk about videos being worked on prior to being published. Messages that reference interactions with creators who have less than 100 subs. Messages talking about personal details of Creeps' life that were never public until 2015, if not sparingly referenced. How is she talking to a fake Creepypasta when she had to have been talking to the real one at one point in order to make these fucking videos? She had to have existed in the chats with other narrators in order to record Pokemon Jessica, and apparently have a whole fucking video series dedicated to her. This is true even by Creeps' own admission. How the fuck is this even possible? To believe that Komori was speaking to a fake Creepypasta the whole time requires an unprecedented level of suspension of disbelief. At that point, you might as well believe the moon is made of cheese, unicorns exist, and JFK was shot by a fucking leprechaun. Lie number everything. It was all a fucking lie. And what kind of innocent man tries to destroy evidence, lie basically throughout his entire response, and heavily undersell / handwave his evidential relationship to the victim? The answer? Someone who has hell of a lot more than just a skeleton in his closet. How about a fucking graveyard? Before we get into this, I want to preface that there is plenty of evidence to come to the conclusion that something nefarious was going on. However, there are areas of these incidents that are worth speculating over, believe me. I will specify when I'm being speculative either before or after as to make it obvious, but don't assume it's true unless proven otherwise. To start us off, the official Creepypasta Facebook has a few details worth mentioning. They don't exactly have the punch and sting that the later half of this section does, but it does help paint a better picture of Creeps' activities during and after the time he was talking to Komori. Going past all the update videos and thirsting over anime girls, we can see that some of these posts are tagged with some variation of the username Nameless Monster. Nameless Monster was an admin for the Facebook page. Searching up posts made by them shows that they not only had some pervy convos with him, but was also hanging out with Mr. Creepypasta in Minecraft and had private dubious conversations with him. I say dubious because I don't know the veracity of their relationship. There are hints that he may have also been inappropriate with her, at the very least as seen here. It's a childish crass joke, but you'll see why it might be more later. I'm being speculative here. Just note that as we move forward. Anyways, she described how she got into this position at a post made in February of 2013. People keep asking me, what does it take to be an admin for this page? To be honest, I really don't have a solid answer. I'd love to fabricate some total bullshit story about how I was BFFs with Mr. Creepypasta, Mew, and Creeps sought me out to just personally become an admin. You know, something that would make me feel better about my pitiful existence. But in reality, I was just in the right place at the right time. I'm nothing special. I'm just an American teenage girl who had an interesting string of luck that I will probably never get ever again. When Creeps first offered me this adminship, I'd known him for literally, I think, 2 hours. According to other posts on Facebook, she had been an admin since November of 2012. She says that she simply got lucky, but a Q&A released in January of 2013 of Creeps and Nameless may hint at some factors that caught his interest.
3, please don't get mad. How old are Creeps and Nameless Monster? Should we answer that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with knowing the age. I don't know. I'm 21 anyway.
I'm 16.
16? Aww, you little baby. I didn't know how old you were.
Shut up!
Oh, I just want to pinch your cheeks and be like, oh my gosh, you're so cute.
How old did you think I was?
I don't know. For some reason I had 17 in my head. I wasn't that far off anyway, but...
I told you I was illegal, like, because you kept making, like, sexual innuendos, and I'm like, dude,
Okay, no, that's not directed... Okay, I do that to everyone. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, but I am legal in his country, so apparently.
Okay, changing subject because this is.
It's like invitation enough for you, isn't it?
No, okay, changing subject. No, I'm just flirty with everyone.
Okay, so Creeps is 21 and I'm 16.
In a short frame of time, 3 months, apparently with no care as to how old she was. Knowing the high likelihood that she was a minor considering the fandom at the time, he was already making sexual advances on her to the point of her having to clarify that she is illegal. Their relationship continues as cordial, with the same continuation of what we would expect from him. Inappropriate comments, but really nothing overtly predatory directed at her as far as public posts go. Their relationship fizzled out around 2015 from what I gather, or at least the Facebook slows to a crawl around that time. Make of that what you will. Now, is this as bad as what Komori alleges? No. Is it inappropriate? Highly. Ignoring the whole Komori allegations, if someone like him can't watch his tongue around someone who he may or may not have known was a young teenage girl...
No, I'm just flirty with everyone.
Okay, so...
Then he has no business being around them. This is just from what we can glean from the surface. God only knows how bad things really were. If I could ask, I would. Both Komori and Nameless aren't presently online under their handles, and neither are the next set of people. Believe me, I've tried to reach out to the inactive accounts related to this situation. None of them have responded, and it's been months. Which would be fair enough, had there not have been recent deletions of evidence. I'm talking this fucking year. To reiterate, this is nothing visibly close to what Komori alleges. However, the next group of girls shows it can get worse when it comes to the misdeeds of Creepypasta. All 3 of them were artists, writers, and voice actors within the community. Their names are Scarecrow1719, The Dark Mander, and Miss Zombie Doll. Searching up their names on Creeps' channel will yield that they all have a sordid history. They all knew Creeps from around 11 to 12 years ago, late 2012 to 2013. The same time around when he was inappropriately speaking to Nameless, the same time he was grooming Komori. So who are these people exactly? What happened? Let's go one by one, establish their age, and explain what happened. Miss Zombie Doll. Miss Zombie Doll posted a YouTube comment on one of her videos in November of 2012 saying that she is 16. Unpleasantly, she is also a very, very hormonal teenager, basically everywhere on her socials. Not to sound like I'm denigrating her, most of us were like this her age. However, it doesn't help that we can also see creeps ever so slightly encouraging her to be more sexual, as seen here. She went as far as to even take pictures of her buttocks and leggings, sending it to creeps publicly, which then he comments, "Faps."
Lengths these people took their online relationships. Take Zombie Doll, whose name consistently popped up in Creeps' postings from late 2012 and 2013. Based on Creeps' posts from the time, she seems like someone he became really close with. Besides there being a ton of interactions between the two.
These conversations don't exist on the surface web anymore, but thankfully Matanui archived it all in his video, which is what's helping me piece together the scraps that were left behind. Since this video dropped, Zombie has deleted her entire Facebook, causing much of the evidence to be smudged. Things become much more uncomfortable about their relationship when you consider the fact that they had met up in real life. Multiple times. You can hear it from Zombie herself.
Do you and Creepypasta date all the time? Yes. Bed. Kiss.
What happened in London stayed in London. Wink.
I was there too.
Yeah, have you made up that rule?
Will. Who cares about Liam and Russell? It was just your offer, Will. So, me and Tom and Creeps met up. And we went into London, and we had an amazing time. We got henna tattoos and everything. And it was amazing. And oh my god.
This meet happened in December of 2012, as seen in this Facebook post of their henna tattoos. We don't know what happened after any public meets. We don't know if they went somewhere else public, private, or just parted ways there. This would be great information to know. However, Creeps has been silent since it came to light. Now, to be completely fair, it wasn't exactly a date, despite them apparently joking about dating in a Q&A afterwards. There was someone else there at the first meet. Her friend, Darkmander. Oh, hey!
I have no idea who they are.
There seemingly was another meet that they had at London MCN in October of 2013 that Creeps had expressed interest in going. As it turns out, archives exist of Zombie Doll's Facebook and still public posted Creeps announcing his arrival at the expo. Darkmander was attending as well. The prospect that these interactions evolved from online to real life and so quickly doesn't feel right. While I can't say with absolute certainty that something happened, I can't also give absolute grace that something didn't, considering the circumstances of their relationship. I mean, here we have a fully grown man, 22 around this time, hanging out IRL with a couple teenage girls, fucking about in a mall or some shit. Some of the girls he was openly sexual with, like alluding to fucking her type of openly sexual. Zombie, I must make Creepypasta these cupcakes for his birthday. Creeps, the things I would do to anybody who makes these for me. Zombie, in that case, :D. Creeps, I just hit 1,000 likes. This calls for a celebration. Zombie, bedroom now. Creeps, I would, but the last time you were there, you left it in pieces.
What happened in London stayed in London. Wink.
You see what I mean? How the fuck am I supposed to be charitable and assume something didn't happen when this is the kind of shit that's coming out of his mouth? Everything about Creeps' interaction with Zombie really helps jog the mind into asking a few questions. Where's the line drawn? Is it just sexual comments? Is he willing to physically take advantage of these girls? Why did he think any of this was okay? And more importantly, if this is what's being done out in the open for everyone to see, what kind of things are being done when nobody's looking? Maybe the kind of things that only come out 10 years after the fact. This isn't the last we'll see of Zombie Doll, but this is all I can say about her for now, lest I make this more harder to follow than it already is. Scarecrow 1719. Scarecrow 1719 was one of the few names in Creeps' response video that he couldn't ignore, likely because she was a large contributor of not just Creeps but also many other narrators such as Mr. Creepypasta Jr., etc. Scarecrow's age is harder to discern as she didn't outright state her birth-date or age publicly, well, not anywhere old at least. She made a couple of posts only a few years ago, one of which stated she had just turned 23 in 2019, which would make her 16 in 2012. While I can't glean anything publicly about the veracity of their relationship, in private, it must have been more or less the same kind of shit he put Komori, Zombie, and Nameless through, due to the fact that they were openly being shipped by members of the Creepypasta clique, and Mr. Creepypasta going as far to draw ship art for them. Why? This part is a theory on my end, but it's not without any merit. She does end up playing a semi-important role considering the next girl in line. The Darkmander. The Dark Matter was friends with Zombie and was one of the attendees at the IRL meet. She participated in the community the same way as the other girls, being a voice actor and writer for Creepypasta. So, how old is Dark Matter? To learn this, we need some tangential context. Dark Matter wrote a smut fanfiction called Can I Pikachu in the Shower, featuring herself, Zombie, and Scarecrow, apparently as a joke. They were going to trick Scarecrow into reading it in a VC and then record her reaction. The video was uploaded onto none other than Creepypasta's gaming channel. I wouldn't put it past a teenager to think of doing something weird like this, but as it turns out, it wasn't even Dark Matter's idea. It was personally requested by Creeps himself. On Dark Matter's channel, she conducted a Q&A with her, Zombie, and Mr. Creepypasta, and Paranormal Mango. Scarecrow herself actually submitted a question asking whose idea it was to prank her. The audio is a bit jank. I'll do my best to make it listenable.
Okay, number 5. This is from Scarecrow1719. And I'm guessing this is about the fan fiction, Can I Pikachu in the Shower, which I wrote. And he's asking, what is your dirty inspiration?
Oh. Dan. Okay. I'm sorry, I just slipped it in there. Okay.
What is your dirty inspiration? My inspiration to write that story was a very, very strange Skype call with Creepypasta, where we were discussing various shippings. Yes, giggity. And he basically said, ship me with me. But then we figured that wouldn't really work, so we went for the next best thing, which was Scarecrow. And then we figured, why not write whole fiction and then just like trick her into narrating it? I'm sorry, Scarecrow, but it was so funny.
It was
so funny.
For the record, it was all Creeps' idea though.
Yeah, which is totally his idea. It wasn't me.
So I'm not sure if you caught that, but 2 things. 1, Mr. Creepypasta says something interesting. I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. The compression is making it hard. I won't put words in his mouth, so go ahead and try to discern what he's saying on your own. He's definitely commenting about the fan fiction. Just listen closely. I'll play it again.
That was a glorious story.
Anyways, just know that this is a 25-year-old man hanging out with teenage girls. The other thing about that clip was initially Creeps actually wanted her to write a smut fan fiction featuring her and someone else entirely. Someone random. Personally, it feels like he's nudging her into writing one of just him and her. But again, I'm being speculative about this aspect. Thankfully, it doesn't even matter what I think, because she ended up writing an underage smut fan fiction of real teenage girls at his own personal request. Teenage girls he was clearly interested in. So now, we come back to the question asked initially. How old is Dark Matter?
Question. Anal.
No, that deserves this.
Not sure about that.
And now we're back to Pikachu in the shower.
And meanwhile, on Creese's second channel.
Erotica, featuring Scarecrow 1719.
Me, a 14-year-old girl.
14. She was fucking 14. It's not even legal in the UK. Now, at a glance, it might not seem like Creeps and Dark Matter were close on the surface, aside from having private one-on-one late-night Skype calls about smut fanfictions. I want to die. All of this goes out the window with this video of Dark Matter apparently being assigned to confess her crush on Creeps by Mr. Creepypasta. She ends up dropping something quite interesting.
But the point is we're friends, and we're good ones at that. And we've known each other for a while now. Long enough that you've got a weird obsession with my cat. My biology teacher thinks we're together, and she doesn't really get the creepy in that, since she just overheard your voice on the phone. But no, you're just the awesome crazy guy in a Primark monkey hat.
He's calling her at her fucking school. Now, to be clear, she states in the Valentine's video that she sees him as a really good friend, but not without mentioning that he was already taken.
We both know there's nothing between us. Either way, you've got someone already.
By who? Hard to tell. I mean, just look at the way he talks to these girls. It looks like he can't even make up his own fucking mind. He knew what he was doing was wrong. He just didn't care. It's that simple. I'll save the diatribe for the end of the video, but what can we surmise from this little episode? From the very start of his career as a narrator, Jacob Calvert wasted no time in taking advantage of the fame he found himself with. He used his connections to further grow a platform and simultaneously create a bigger buffet of loyal, naive teenage girls to be his little plaything. He is, in a sense, the typical online child predator, an opportunist who can take what he can get when he can get it and drag it out until it gets boring and then move on to the next subject of adoration, all while walking a tightrope of legality. I can't get in trouble if she's all the way in America. She's 16, she's technically legal in my country. I was just joking, I'm flirting with everyone. He's a manipulative, cunning liar. He fibs as he breathes. He was able to convince nearly the entire community of his innocence by merely asking you to give him plausible deniability. Despite it only taking 1 day to prove he was lying and 1 year to show how things actually were way worse than anybody initially thought, everyone had already checked out of the situation at that point and went home with the idea that maybe he was telling the truth. And even still, he is using his status to keep victims silent. Matanui's video shows full Facebook conversations that are now broken into pieces due to the victim's account being deleted. Videos that contain extremely damning evidence uploaded by the victims and even posted on the perpetrator's channel, now private, deleted, gone. Call me crazy, but that is no mere coincidence. Sure, you can call it speculating. Hell, I'm fine with people saying I'm speculating every time I'm commenting about things we don't have concrete evidence for. But you can't say it's without merit. Judging by his comment about Komori's nudes, I'd say we're only gleaming the surface of what Jacob is really hiding. There is a very clear pattern here. Young, naive, teenage girls that just want to be a part of the community. They have to be desperate for the affection of their idols and will do anything to be a part of the clique. Anything. This isn't a horror story. It's a real-life tragedy. But to have this go without any consequences, without any remorse, regret, or self-flatulence from the afflictors, now that's just cruel. I mean, if this really all is just one giant misunderstanding, surely there would be an ounce of penance, maybe even an apology. Then again, why would any of that be necessary? I mean, why should they have to sacrifice a fraction of their dignity when they could just all bury it all deep in the woods? Let the bones scatter about, ferment themselves into the soil. Disregarded, repressed, forgotten. If you're convinced at this point that Creepypasta is guilty of taking advantage of multiple girls, then I'll have to inform you that Mr. Creepypasta was there to witness basically all of it, even encourage it at multiple points. He is present during some of these interactions and even acknowledges the fanfiction Dark Matter wrote, as you have already seen. Unfortunately, for Mr. Creepypasta, there are also many instances in which he was also inappropriate with these girls. To help get a good idea of what I mean, let's acknowledge some of Mr. Creepypasta's other creative endeavors. He fancies himself as somewhat of an artist. There's an old DeviantArt that he used to post on called Spike the Rogue. We know this is his account because not only does it contain his full name and personal details about his life, interests, and hobbies, but it also contains the one and only posting of this image that dates all the way back to 2012, made only days after Dark Matter's video collab with MCP himself. The style even heavily resembles drawings that he would post under his Mr. Creepypasta pseudonym, such as his Facebook. Here's a Facebook post from Zombie Doll showing off some art MCP drew for her. Weird fucking thing to draw for a 16-year-old when you're fucking 25, but okay. Here's another reblog from Zombie Doll of an animation MCP drew of her and Creepypasta. I mean, at least this one's innocent enough. Gosh. I sure hope he didn't go beyond just drawing weird things. That would fucking suck. Here's a drawing from Zombie, actually. Reposted by Mr. Creepypasta. I hope you liked it, Zombie Doll. 1 week before Christmas. Right then, what should I get Zombie Doll for Cremo? And it's her holding a pair of lingerie. Well, I mean, thank fucking God it's seemingly a parody. I mean, surely Mr. Creepypasta didn't get a 16-year-old girl fetish clothing for Christmas.
I'm gonna give you bacon. That's what's gonna be your gift for Christmas. So I'm gonna send you packaged bacon.
No, you sent me a thong.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good. This is generally the worst of it, but he did make additional comments about Zombie in regards to her singing capabilities. Once again, in December of 2012, Mr. Creepypasta organized a group project where a few of his close narrator buddies would sing Christmas songs. According to the CreepyLeaks 2 Google Doc, which is where a lot of this info is sourced, Mr. Creepypasta had asked Zombie to sing Santa Baby. A very interesting choice. It's pretty uncomfortable to listen to, knowing how these people were deliberately nudging teens to act more sexual, so I won't play it. But do note that Mr. Creepypasta couldn't help but comment a GIF of a sign saying orgasm alert right below publishing Zombie's cover. Anyways, on the topic of inappropriate shit directed at minors.
Why did I just do that? I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Shut up, MCP. Don't you dare bring that up.
So I have these awesome little recordings from my Christmas
MCP! No!
And Charm does the most adorable thing whenever she's recording or looking for her next line, where she just does exactly what she did just now.
Which was what did she just do? She goes boop boop ba ba doo.
Hang on, I have them all saved. I'll send them to you.
No, don't.
Oh, I don't like you.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, never mind.
Also, why the hell do you have those saved?
Well, I have a little confession to make about Mr. Creepypasta here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, he likes little noises that girls make to sin.
Oh. Oh.
Just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, you did kind of save like all of Humble's lines for that fanfic you wrote.
Which fanfiction?
Wasn't there like a fanfiction that you and Steenie did or something?
Okay, question.
Don't worry, you're not alone. I'm asking the same fucking thing. Why? Why does a 14-year-old girl know Mr. Creepypasta likes the noises little girls make to sin? What the fuck does that even mean? Why does it involve a supposed fanfiction that's yet to be seen? So many questions, and you know we don't have any answers. Moving on. One of the reasons Creepypasta couldn't ignore Scarecrow's name was because she was a recognized name within the community, particularly on Mr. Creepypasta's channel. Many of the videos she participated in are now gone, with only remnants of her efforts seen in videos crediting her as a voice actor. One of these videos is yet another bizarre request of a 25-year-old man to make of a 16-year-old. Now, MCP didn't want you to find this video, hence the deletion of it. Somewhere, somehow, call it divine intervention or break in the simulation, whatever, someone archived it. Uploaded onto the Random Media Archive channel is MCP's long-deleted video containing Scarecrow 1719 as the lead role. The story? Oh, it's called Fetish. Now, call me crazy, but I got a hunch that this is a very not safe for work and borderline pornographic story of a horror-related fetish of some kind. I, like with Dark Mander's smut story, couldn't bring myself to read/watch it in full. I'm just a guy on the internet. I'm not a fucking FBI agent. I don't need to sit through this shit if I don't want to. But do know I skimmed both stories to know for a matter of fact that it is not safe for work and it's not worth diving into further. In case you somehow doubt that this is a genuine upload of Mr. Creepypasta, he still has his reading up of it on SoundCloud. Now, as if this upload isn't bad enough, the description is very icky, no good. So yeah, I know I said I was done, but I really wanted to do another story with Scarecrow 1719, and I'm in this one, sort of. I moan and I scream. She did this story so goddamn well. I mean, seriously, I've never found a story played so well as this one with the female stalker thing. Yeah, he sounds a bit too excited to have done this. To sort of cap this off, there is an archive of Mr. Creepypasta's Tumblr account. One of Tumblr's oldest features is that you can see who bloggers follow. Many of these accounts are innocuous enough until you hover over this profile and see, take a wild guess what's on there. Perversion Princess is a porn-related Tumblr blog that centers around, what's the best way I can put it? Lolicon! It's fucking Lolicon! Like, a lot of it. At a glance, it seems like it was characters of dubious age, but it very quickly divulged into some pretty fucking nasty shit. Like, some of them looked 12 at most. Now, regardless of how you feel about what a guy does in the privacy of his quarters with nothing but a box of Kleenex and lube, someone jerking off to this probably doesn't belong near kids. If anything, considering his pornographic proclivities at the time, it really goes to paint a lot of these weird, creepy interactions he's had with these girls in a much more sinister light. Mr. Creepypasta isn't as bad as Creepypasta, but he sure as fuck lands in second place if it were a competition. And to some degree, it was. There was a seemingly never-ending list of weird shit going on between Creepypasta narrators and their underage fans. Not even Creeps, Mr. Creepypasta, or even Junior were the only ones. Briefly, just this year, I found another girl that I suspect had similar inappropriate interactions with this clique. Kitten Reads Horror. Now, I'm still actively looking into this situation, and it's one of the many reasons why this has taken forever to come out. In a video Slimebeast made last year, he found a weird interaction MCP had with a girl by the name of Mary, reblogged by this girl named Kitten Reads Horror. Now, initially, it's just that. Weird. So, I got a little curious. I didn't know what I was looking for, or if it would even result in anything. What I found makes things complicated. Once again. Kitten Reads Horror at one point used to be a fairly large creepypasta narrator / writer. Later archives of her Tumblr shows that she had a fan base that would draw art of her, as well as posing with other famous narrators such as Miss Shadow Lovely. She was even being shipped with none other than Cryotic. Yeah, that fucking guy. I don't know the context behind this, and believe me, I've tried to find it. If I had to guess, maybe she had a guest appearance on a narration series he did, maybe a stream, and some kind of interaction happened that spurred the community into shipping them. When I tried to search this up, I found a Newgrounds art post of someone listing off narrator / horror creators they liked, naming her, Cry, and the clique. This led me to believe that she must have been in the Skype chats, and lo and behold, on Mr. Creepypasta and Junior's channel, she is a frequent collaborator. Creeps is nowhere to be seen. Odd. Hang with me for a sec. I'm getting somewhere with all of this. It's safe to say she was indeed fairly close with the clique and was even big enough on her own to be associated as one of the big ones in the community. Searching up her channel will yield no result of an account going by that name, except her account is showing up. She rebranded to this account, Sidhi. Typing in youtube.com/Kitten Reads Horror redirects to this account as well. Speaking of, it looks pretty dead. Hard to believe that this is an account that used to be considered a large narrator. But then I see it. Playlist Kitten, 2012 through 2016. At this point, I don't know how old she is. So out of curiosity, I went to go see what she sounded like back in 2012. And yeah.
In any city, in any country, go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. When you reach the front desk, ask to visit a man who calls himself the Holder of Ambition.
That sounds like really fucking young, dude. So, where's the bad part? The bad part was that I found an old archive of her Tumblr once again. Although this time, it was the one in 2013. She had reblogged from Morbid Minxie NSFW depictions of the following in order: Creepypasta, Creepypasta Junior, Mr. Creepypasta, someone named SS, Creepy Rainbow Pasta, Miss Shadow Lovely, Wellhay Productions, Muji, Scarecrow 1719, herself, Mango, and Little Creepypasta 13. Yeah, guess how old that fucking person is. I'm not sure who this morbid person is. There doesn't exist an archive of their Tumblr, nor anything pops up when searching their username. However, what is a bit disturbing about this is that Kitten didn't actually reblog from Morbid. She reblogged it from Creepypasta Jr. as seen here. So, in a short summary of this dig, I found another young girl these narrators were collaborating and interacting with in 2013. She grew a big enough name for herself that she was being drawn in fan art that contained multiple other popular narrators. She was being shipped with Cryotic, someone who had been canceled in 2020 for a variety of reasons, one of which being inappropriate interactions with fans who were minors, and on top of all that, she was reblogging reblogs from Creepypasta Jr., where a fan drew NSFW art of him, other narrators, and minors that he was in contact with. She was in chats with Mr. Creepypasta, being shipped with adults, was actively being sexualized alongside other minors, and it was being reblogged by them too. It's weird shit, dude. All of this hopefully paints a very clear picture of the kind of community the Creepypasta narrative group was harboring. People who appoint themselves at the top of a community carry a lot of responsibility, especially being an adult with a large teenage following. You're supposed to set an example and conduct yourself at least semi-professionally when interacting with them. Mr. Creepypasta did everything but that, allowing himself to grow content with what Creeps McPasta and Jr. and other freaks were doing, even letting his perverted urges slip, and ended up putting minors in situations they shouldn't have been in. And there is so much more to talk about. I'm going to need to cut it short and leave the rest for a future video. Essentially, everything damning or related that I could have touched on, I did. This video is taking way too long to make, and it just needs to be done, lest I get further lost in the rabbit hole. Have you ever heard a story so disgusting and abhorrent that you wondered if the author was trying to warn you about someone you didn't even know was there? I hope that you used to be fairly uncaring of those kinds of details. I know you watch plenty of horror-related media, not thinking beyond the confines of your immersion. Within the last hour, I hope you learned something you wish you were more cognizant of sooner. I promised a diatribe at the end, but I don't know if I really have any gas left to keep this going, if I'm being honest. I imagine writing some powerful speech at the end that would vitalize some kind of change in the horror community, but with it being 5 years now since Komori initially came out, I've become cynical. I truly hate these people for what they did. How they played us for fools, how they continue to hide from things that they did, how they use their thumbs to push the teens that they groomed down into silence, how they get to grab hold onto their positive reputations and get to strangle it between their fingers with a fucking smile on their face. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. It's not fair that Komori had all the proof you could ever need to prove the person you're accusing is guilty and have nobody believe you. It's not fair that he gets caught lying about everything in his response and still have nobody believe her. It's not fair that he gets to have his reputation as a good person still intact and accolades being given by popular creators. And more importantly, it is not fair that Komori was that close to killing herself because Jacob Calvert couldn't keep his dick in his pants around a 12-year-old girl. None of this is fair. Truth is, a lot of my anger comes from the fact that something bad happened to me as a kid. I grew up and realized what had happened, and I feel like I can't look back at that point in my life anymore. It's just gone. I don't want to see it. There was no evidence that I could have provided. There's no way for me to prove that it happened. I and the perpetrator are the only people that know for a fact that it happened, and it's not like he's gonna fucking admit it. So what can I do? He is still walking to this day. And there's not a fucking thing I could do but hope and pray to whatever God is listening that he doesn't do it again. Because if he does, I don't know if I can handle it. So, excuse me. Pardon me if I get a little passionate about this story. If maybe I fucking relate to it a little. Get a little fucking mad at this situation. Because here we have someone who can prove what happened. And it doesn't fucking matter to people. If it didn't matter that this eventually evolved into revealing a cabal of degenerate perverts who took advantage of several minors, then it will never matter. But don't think for a fucking second that this chapter is closed. That it won't get worse. That surely you've seen it all. Because you haven't. Because you haven't. And you will likely never see how bad things really were. So let that shit sizzle and simmer over a fire for a few hours. I know the horror community is adverse to drama. I know none of these people will face any jail time for what they did, for the reasons stated. But that doesn't mean that they should be allowed to have the incandescent reputations that they have. Because that's the same reputation that enabled them into grooming these minors in the first place. And there is nothing to say that they haven't stopped. There are no winners in this story. It's only victims, bastards, and the deceived.